In the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, there is a house that no one dares to call home. A small white structure, seemingly ordinary, but those who step inside know the truth that is not empty. Something lingers in the walls, something left behind from the horrific night of June 10, 1912. That night, the Moore family, a respected couple with their 4 young children, returned home after a church event. Alongside them were Lena and Ina Stillinger, two friends of the Moore children, who had been invited for a sleepover. The house was filled with laughter as the children settled into bed. But after midnight, an unseen horror arrived. A shadow slipped into the home, silent as death itself. No one heard the door creak open. No one stirred as a man with an axe crept from room to room. One by one, he stood over the sleeping victims, lifting the axe high above his head before bringing it crashing down. He did not stop at a single blow. He struck again and again and again, long after life had left them. By the time the killer was done, all 8 bodies lay in pools of their own blood. The walls were splattered red. The ceilings bore deep, dark gouges from where the axe had been raised before each deadly strike. The faces of the victims had been covered with bedsheets or clothing, as if the murderer couldn't bear to see their staring, lifeless eyes. But the most disturbing part: the killer did not leave right away. He lingered. He covered every mirror in the house with sheets. He prepared a meal in the kitchen but left it untouched. He even washed his hands in a basin before slipping into the night, never to be seen again. The town awoke to a nightmare. The crime scene was unlike anything the town had ever seen. No suspects were ever convicted, and to this day, the identity of the murderer remains unknown. But something stayed behind in that house. Over the decades, those who dared enter began to experience unexplainable horrors. Cold hands touch visitors, unseen forces whisper in the dark, and objects move on their own. Investigators have reported hearing children crying, doors slamming shut, and the sound of an axe dragging across the wooden floors. Some say they have seen shadows creeping along the walls, darting just out of sight. Others have felt an overwhelming sense of dread and despair, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. One of the most chilling encounters occurred when a visitor, staying overnight, woke to the sound of a child's voice whispering in his ear. A small, breathy voice simply asked, "Who did this to us?" But the house never answers. The murderer was never found. And those spirits, they are still waiting.